We were lounging on the sofa, watching a silly reality TV program. I was ready to call it a night and leaned over to kiss my girlfriend, Emma. "Good night," I said. As usual, I told her I loved her, a nightly ritual. But this time she didn't respond with the same words. Instead, her face took on an odd, solemn expression. She grabbed the remote, silenced the television, and turned to me. My stomach churned. I knew this wasn't about tomorrow's dinner plans. Looking me square in the eyes, she said, "I care about you, Jake, I really do, but I'm not in love with you." Her words lingered heavily in the room. It felt like a sharp jab to my chest, but a strangely precise one. This wasn't a breakup. It was a downgrade, a reduction in status. She was presenting me with new terms for our relationship, expecting me to simply accept and move forward. I'm a systems engineer. My days are spent dissecting intricate systems, spotting flaws, and making them rational. My mind struggles with vague emotional ambiguity, so I processed her statement logically. She cares for me. She's not in love with me. "Understood," I said after a pause. "Thanks for the clarity." That was it, no shouting, no demands for an explanation, no pleading for her to rethink her stance. I just nodded, got up, and headed to bed. I could sense her watching me as I left the room. She was braced for a dramatic reaction. She expected me to crumble, to beg for ways to regain her affection. She thought I'd scramble to earn back a status I didn't even know I'd lost. She got nothing, just calm, composed acceptance. Lying in bed, staring at the ceiling, my phone buzzed on the nightstand. It was a notification from a group chat she shared with her friends, one she'd once shown me on the tablet we kept in the living room. I didn't need to check it. I knew what was happening. She was debriefing her council, her board of advisors for her emotions. A few minutes later, I heard her enter the bedroom, assuming I was asleep. She slipped into bed, the mattress dipping slightly. The faint glow of her phone lit her face. I heard the soft tap, tap, tap of her typing. She was seeking the reassurance she craved. Her friends were likely praising her courage, her honesty. They were applauding her for boldly sharing her truth rather than ending things outright. They were celebrating her for crafting this innovative relationship dynamic, one where she enjoyed the perks of my stability, my home, my income, without the messy commitment of being in love. She thought she'd outsmarted the system. She believed she'd renegotiated our agreement in her favor. She didn't realize she'd just triggered a termination clause. She had demoted me from partner to housemate, and I was about to become the most efficient, logical, and emotionally detached housemate she'd ever known. The game was set. She'd laid out the rules. I was ready to follow them with ruthless precision. It's been a week since Emma's bold declaration. A week she probably thinks I've spent maturely processing my emotions. In truth, it's been the rollout of what I'm calling the housemate protocol. Thanks for the feedback on my last post. Many suggested I just evict her. That's not my approach. That's a chaotic emotional clash. I prefer a gradual, silent, systematic unraveling. It's more effective. The protocol kicked off the morning after her statement. I woke up at my usual hour. Normally, I'd lean over, kiss her, and say good morning. Not anymore. I got up, went to the kitchen, and brewed a pot of coffee. I poured myself a cup. The rest went into a thermos for work. I left the empty pot on the counter. The man who made her coffee every morning loved her. That man is gone. The housemate who shares the kitchen doesn't. I got ready for work and left with a casual, "Have a good day," thrown over my shoulder. No kiss. No, "I love you." I was courteous, professional, like I'd be with a colleague sharing an office. For the first few days, she seemed thrilled. Relieved, even. She had her freedom. The pressure was gone. She'd successfully friend-zoned her live-in partner without losing the apartment or the lifestyle. She thought she'd won everything. Then the small changes started piling up. On Friday, she texted me in the afternoon. "Hey, the girls and I want to try that new bistro tonight. Can you reserve a table for 8? This was routine. I was the organizer. I handled bookings, plans, trips. I replied shortly after. "Sorry, I'm tied up tonight. You should call them yourself. They're usually packed." Her response was a single question mark. I didn't reply. I was busy, at the gym. A new habit I'd picked up with the extra evening time. That weekend, the protocol went into overdrive. I did my laundry, just mine. I went grocery shopping. I bought food for myself for the week. Steak, chicken, ingredients for my lunches. I skipped her favorite snacks, her gluten-free bread, her overpriced oat milk. I came home, stored my groceries on my designated fridge and pantry shelves, and started prepping my meals. She walked into the kitchen, puzzled. "You went shopping?" "Yep," I said, focused on slicing chicken. "You didn't get my stuff." It wasn't a question, it was an accusation. "Oh, sorry," I said with the detached politeness of someone who'd bumped into you at the store. I just grabbed what was on my list. I can send you a photo of the receipt so you know your share of the shared items like dish soap. Her face was a mix of shock and indignation. In 2 years, I'd never once asked her to split the grocery bill, but the man who covered her groceries loved her. The housemate only pays his fair share. The cracks widened on Sunday. Her car had been making a strange noise for days. She'd mentioned it, clearly expecting me to handle it. That afternoon, she came into my home office. "My car's acting up again," she said, leaning against the doorframe. "You should check it out. I don't want to get overcharged by a mechanic." I turned in my chair to face her. "That sounds frustrating," I said, my voice laced with neutral, practiced empathy. "It's smart to get a few quotes before committing to repairs. Online reviews are great for finding trustworthy shops." I turned back to my computer. She stood there, silent, for a full minute. I could feel her staring, trying to process what was happening. The man who'd spent his Sunday tinkering with her car, who had a reliable mechanic on speed dial, loved her. The housemate was occupied. She huffed and stormed off. "The thing is, I'm not being cruel. I'm being precise. She said she cares for me, so I'm treating her like someone I care about, a friend, a housemate. I'd give a friend advice on finding a mechanic. I wouldn't spend my Sunday fixing their car. The currency of a loving relationship, the acts of service, the thoughtful gestures, the quiet support, is no longer in play. She devalued our emotional currency to nothing. I'm simply adjusting our household's economy to match." She's starting to see that her bold, honest statement didn't just free her from loving me. It freed me from the duties of loving her. And she's realizing how many of those duties she took for granted. The quiet in the apartment is growing heavier. She keeps trying to spark conversations, fishing for an emotional response. She gets nothing but polite, friendly detachment. She thought she'd just removed love from the equation. She's starting to suspect she might have emptied the entire equation. Update 2. It's been a month since Emma's bold announcement. A month of the housemate protocol, and her system is showing signs of collapse. What she thought was a clever maneuver has become a slow, self-inflicted wound. The politeness, which she initially found liberating, has become a relentless barrier. It's an unbreakable, unyielding wall. There are no gaps, no moments of vulnerability she can exploit. I am consistently, cheerfully, and devastatingly neutral. Her birthday was 2 weeks ago. The first major test of the new dynamic. In the past, I'd have spent weeks planning. A surprise party, a weekend getaway, a meaningful, pricey gift. This year, I woke up on her birthday, saw she was awake, and said, "Happy birthday, Emma. Hope you have an amazing day." Then I got up and started my routine. She stayed in bed, watching me. Her face showed utter disbelief. She was waiting for the surprise, the breakfast in bed, the flowers that would arrive. The hint of a fancy dinner reservation. Nothing came. She wandered into the kitchen while I was blending my morning smoothie. "So," she said, feigning nonchalance, "any plans for my birthday?" "Me?" I asked, turning to her. "Nah, just work and the gym. You got something planned?" "I thought, we'd do something," she faltered. "Oh," I said, with a look of mild realization. "I figured you'd be celebrating with your close friends. I'm cool with grabbing takeout and watching a movie if you want, like we sometimes do. As friends, didn't want to assume you didn't have big plans." The way I stressed friends was a deliberate, measured blow. I was using her own logic against her. Lavish birthday surprises are for lovers. Friends get a casual offer of takeout. She spent her birthday evening on the couch, scrolling her phone while I worked on my laptop beside her. The silence was oppressive. Her friends, the ones who called her brave, posted "Happy Birthday, Queen" online, but none made actual plans with her. The financial side of the protocol has also hit hard. She didn't realize how much passive financial support she'd been enjoying. I used to cover our dates, trips, her car insurance, her phone bill. It was part of our shared life. Now that life is over. Her phone was disconnected last week. She came to me in a panic. I looked at her and said, "Oh yeah. I removed my card from the shared plan since we're not really a unit anymore. You'll need to set up your own account." Her face paled. She has no steady job. She does occasional freelance design work, but it barely funds her shopping habits. She'd been living a life bankrolled by a man who loved her. Now she's just a housemate behind on her share of the bills. She started trying to provoke me. She wants the old me back, even if it's an angry version. She leaves her things scattered, expecting me to tidy up. I don't. I stack them neatly on her side of the bedroom. She blasts melancholic music in the living room. I put on my noise-canceling headphones. Last night was her boldest move yet. She came home from a night out, clearly tipsy. I was reading in bed. She entered the bedroom in one of my old shirts and nothing else, the way she used to when she wanted intimacy. She sat on the bed's edge and started crying. "I miss you," she said, her voice heavy with tears. "I miss what we had." I set my book down and looked at her, my face showing mild concern, like I'd offer a neighbor whose cat went missing. "That sounds really tough, Emma," I said. "It's been a big month of changes. Have you thought about seeing a counselor? It can help to talk through these feelings with someone neutral." I delivered the line with perfect clinical detachment. I'd taken her genuine, if manipulative, emotional plea and responded with a suggestion to seek professional help. It was the emotional equivalent of telling someone with a sprained ankle to see a doctor. It was accurate, helpful, and completely devoid of the intimacy she craved. Her tears stopped. She stared at me, her eyes wide with dawning dread. She was finally getting it. She wasn't dealing with a heartbroken man lashing out. She was facing a system operating exactly as designed. She'd set the parameters. She'd defined the relationship, and the result was this cold, sterile, perfectly logical void. She thought she was being bold and truthful. She's now realizing she was just foolish. The panic is growing. The silence is louder than her words ever were, and the final system failure is approaching. Final update, it's done. The housemate protocol reached its inevitable end last night in a quiet, devastating collapse. The past 2 weeks have been a steady descent into desperation for Emma. The apartment, once her playground, has become her cage. A tidy, quiet, well-kept cage where her housemate is polite, and the silence constantly reminds her of everything she's lost. She tried everything to provoke a reaction. Tears, anger, seduction, guilt. Nothing worked. I was an unshakable, friendly, impenetrable wall of neutrality. The breaking point came, as I expected, over finances and the future. Our apartment lease expires at the end of next month. A few days ago, the renewal notice arrived from the landlord. I left it on the kitchen counter for her to see. Last night, I came home from the gym to find her at the kitchen table, staring at the lease. She looked exhausted, like she hadn't slept in days. "We need to talk about this," she said, her voice faint. "Sure," I said, setting my gym bag down. "What's up?" "Are we renewing the lease?" she asked. "I'm not," I said simply. Her face went white. What do you mean you're not? Where are we going to live?" "I'm not sure where you're going to live, Emma," I said, keeping my tone even and pleasant. "But I've signed a lease for a new place. A 1-bedroom closer to my work. I move in on the 1st. Her eyes showed her world collapsing. This wasn't just a standoff anymore. This was an eviction notice. I'd made plans for my future, plans without her. You're leaving me?" she stammered, the words sounding absurd even to her. "Leaving you?" I asked, feigning puzzlement. "No, our living arrangement is just ending. We're housemates, right? And the lease is up. It's not typical for housemates to sign new leases together if one is moving out. I found a place that works better for me. I assumed you'd do the same." That's when she broke completely. The tears, the rage, the carefully crafted victimhood, it all spilled out. "This isn't fair," she screamed, standing so fast her chair scraped the floor. "You're being cruel. You're punishing me. I told you I made a mistake. I told you I loved you." "No, you didn't," I corrected calmly. "You said you missed me. You never said you loved me, but that's irrelevant. You told me clearly you weren't in love with me. I believed you, I accepted it, and I adjusted my life accordingly. I'm not punishing you, Emma. I'm respecting your honesty." "But I want things to go back to how they were," she sobbed. "I'm sure you do," I said, and for the first time, a touch of firmness entered my voice. "You want the man who loved you, who cooked for you, planned surprises, paid for your life, and looked after you. You want that back. But you want it without giving him the one thing he needed, your love in return. You wanted a fantasy, Emma, a devoted partner who asked for nothing. That's not a relationship. That's a service contract. And I'm no longer in business." I let that sink in. She looked at me, finally understanding. This wasn't a game. This was a permanent system shutdown. Then, for the final touch, I walked to the counter and picked up a small velvet box that had arrived that afternoon. Her eyes sparked with desperate hope. Even after everything, she thought this might be it. The grand gesture, the proof I still loved her. She watched, breathless, as I opened the box. It wasn't a ring, it was a key. A single, shiny new key on a plain ring. "This is the key to my new apartment," I said, holding it up. "I'm excited about it. Great view." The hope in her eyes vanished, replaced by a look of utter defeat that was almost painful to witness. Almost, she'd bet everything on the idea that my love was an endless resource she could control at will. She just learned it had one simple condition. It had to be mutual. She didn't speak again. She sank back into her chair, staring at the lease renewal, a problem that was now hers alone. I left her there and went to my office to work. The silence in the apartment wasn't heavy anymore. It was just empty. I have 30 days left as her housemate. Then I'm free. She got exactly what she said she wanted, a life with a man who isn't in love with her. She just never imagined that man would be me, walking out the door to a life she'll never share.